In this video, we're going to show you how to increase an amount or decrease an amount by a percentage. In the first example, I'm going to show you how to increase £48 by 6%. We're going to do it first of all without a calculator, and then we'll do it with a calculator as well. So the first thing we've got to do, if we've got to increase £48 by 6%, we've got to find what 6% of £48 is, and then we've got to add it on to that £48. So the first thing we need to do is to find 6% of £48. Now I'm going to put my 0.00 in here just to make it into pounds and pence, because it will help us a bit as we go through. I've got to find 6% of this. Well, rather than find 6% straight off, there are some easier things to do. You can find 10% very easily. 10% is either, if it's a whole number, knocking a naught off. So this one isn't a number with a naught on the end, so we can't do that, but we can move the decimal place. And if we shift the decimal place to here, the decimal point rather, and make that £4.80, that's what 10% of £48 is. So you just move the decimal point once to make the number smaller. So 10% is going to be £4.80. You can do that again to get what 1% is. Move the decimal point again to make that smaller. Well, we've moved it in front of the 8 last time. This time we'd need to move it in front of the 4. So that would give us that 0.48 or 48p. That will be 1%. Now 6% is going to be 6 lots of that. So if I do 6 lots of 48p, that will give me what 6% of £48 is. So doing 6 lots of 48, whichever way you do it, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do 40 and 8 times by 6. 40 and 8 times by 6. 6 times by 4 is 24, and I need to put a naught in. 6 times by 8 is 48. And if I add those two numbers together, I'm going to get 288. So 6 lots of 48 or 288 pence, or in pounds and pence, £2.88. So what I'll need to do now is add this £2.88 onto the £48 I had to start with. And when I add those two together, I've then increased my £48 by 6%. My final answer is there, £50.88. If we're looking at this question again and assuming that we do have a calculator, first thing we've still got to do is to find 6% of £48. Now different calculators' percent buttons work in different ways, so I'm going to show you a way that will work on any calculator. You always start with your amount of money or weight or whatever it is, so here that will be our £48. You then always divide by 100 on the calculator, that will always give you 1%. And then you times by your percent number. So here my amount is 48. I'll divide it by 100 because that's what percent means, per 100. And then I'll times it by 6. And if you do that sum on the calculator, that will tell you what 6% of £48 is. The calculator should tell you that that is 2.88 or £2.88. And then simply add that on to the £48 you had to start with, and you will get the £50.88, which is the correct answer. The next question we're going to look at is decreasing. It's a decrease 75 kilograms by 5%. I'll do this first of all without a calculator, and just like last time, the first thing we've got to do is find what 5% of 75 kilograms is. If we're doing it without a calculator, again 10% like last time should be fairly straightforward. If we started off with 75, 10%, I've got to put a decimal point in to make it smaller, so that's 7.5. Then I can find 1% by again moving the decimal point and making that smaller. Well, this time the decimal point will have to come before the 7.5, so that will be 0.75. Both of these are in kilograms. So 5%, well if 1% is that, 0.75, 5% will be 5 times by that, 5 times by 0.75. If you're doing that without a calculator, if you do 5 75s first of all, ignoring the decimal point, let's just do that. You can do that any way you like. I'm going to do 70 and 5 times by 5 in a multiplication grid. 5 7s are 35, and the naught has to go in. 5 5s are 25. If I add the numbers in my grid up together, I get 375. So that means 5 times by 75 is 375. I was trying to do, or wanted to do, 5 times by 0.75. Well, this sum has got 2 digits after the decimal point. So in my 375 number, 2 of those have to be after the decimal point, so my point must go in there. So I now know that 5% is 3.75 kilograms. And I now, because it's a decrease, need to take that away, take that from the 75 I had to start with. Sorry, I should get that back as normal again. There we go. Take that 3.75 off that 75. If I'm doing that without a calculator, I'll do 75.00. This number's got 2 decimal places, so I'll make this one have it as well. 3.75, and I'm going to do this taking away sum. I can't do nothing take away 5. I need to borrow, and I can't borrow from there. There's nothing to borrow from. So from here, that 5, knock that down by 1, put that 1 there. Then, when I've got 10 here, I can reduce that down by 1 to make that 9 now, and put 1 over here. So I've now got 10 take away 5, which is 5, 9 take away 7, which is 2, put the point in the right place, 4 take away 3 is 1, and the 7. So my final answer to this question, not using a calculator, I get 71.25 kilograms. Now I'll do the same question again using a calculator. So just to remind us what we were doing, we were decreasing 75 kilograms by 5%. Just as in the last one without a calculator, first off I need to find 5% of 75. And if you remember what we did last time, we did the amount divided by 100, always divide by 100 for percent, and then times by your percent number. The amount here is 75. I need to divide that by 100 and times that by 5. And if you do that sum on the calculator should give you 3.75. And because it's a decrease, I then need to do the sum 75 take away 3.75. If you do that on the calculator, you should get 71.25 kilograms.